Without due process, physicians will be afraid to speak up because it might jeopardize their livelihood.
Welcome to the Built on Results podcast, a series of conversations about the issues, the advocacy, and the wins on behalf of emergency physicians. Dr. Howard Chang is Medical Director of the Emergency Department at Ascension Via Christi St. Francis Hospital in Wichita, Kansas. He's also a former president of the Kansas chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians. He says due process for emergency physicians is about being able to work without fear of retribution over doing what's right for patients and staff. Adding legislative protections can't come soon enough. This is Episode 7, Doing What's Right.
Due process is about fairness. It's about transparency. It's about protecting the integrity of our medical decision-making process. We as emergency physicians work in high-stakes environments, fast-paced environments every single day. And when we have concerns arise about our ability to care for our patients or our employment, there must be a clear and impartial process to review these issues. So without due process protections, we could face disciplinary actions or even a loss of our privileges to care for patients, and without a fair review of actually what happened. And this can create a culture where docs may feel pressure to stay silent about safety concerns or resource utilization issues or staffing issues. But when we know that there's a fair process in place, then we become more empowered to advocate for our patients. We can speak up against unsafe conditions. We can ask for more PPE. We can talk about quality concerns and how we need more nursing staff. This allows us to make the best clinical decisions possible for our patients.
Is due process for emergency physicians a concept that's in danger today?
It depends on where you work and the kind of hospital system you work in. The Physician and Patient Safety Act reinforces the idea that physicians deserve a fair review process when their privileges or jobs are at risk, and it has happened before, even at my sites where I've worked, where ER docs have had their employment threatened when they bring up issues, and the hospital doesn't like that. And it's in the news every so often as well. So legislation like the Physician and Patient Safety Act helps ensure that the concerns about a physician's performance is fairly evaluated, is transparently evaluated by our peers, as opposed to some potentially arbitrary decision. So this is important. So we can feel secure when we're advocating for our patients. So we can raise our concerns about staffing or hospital policies that might negatively impact our patients. Policies like this that protect fair processes help preserve that professional independence we need to ultimately benefit the patients that we serve.
The Physician and Patient Safety Act seeks to address this concern at the federal level, but legislative success, as we know, takes time and isn't always guaranteed. How does ACEP help with a policy concern like this?
Organized medicine like ACEP and our individual state chapters do play a vital role in the advocacy of patients and physicians. Like at the national level, ACEP works diligently to elevate issues like due process and physician protection so they remain a part of the policy conversation. But at the state level, chapters like Kansas ACEP, my chapter, we regularly go to our capital in Topeka, Kansas, to help translate our priorities into real legislative advocacy. We meet with our legislators at the state level like once or twice a year, and we explain to them how emergency medicine works on the front lines and explain to them why policies that protect physicians also protect their constituents, and that's what they care about. It's our patients. So when emergency physicians witness firsthand how system-level decisions affect patient care, so through ACEP and our individual state chapters, we have a collective voice, and this voice allows our legislators to see what the reality of the situation is, and it helps represent our patients in these policy discussions.
Many of these challenges do get their start in the state, so it's critical to have that involvement at the state level, yes?
Absolutely. State chapters, like our Kansas ACEP state chapters, we bring together practicing emergency physicians from around the state, from the variety of communities that we live in and work in, to speak directly to our lawmakers about what's happening in the ERs real time. And when our lawmakers hear from the physicians who are providing the bedside care, it helps ground policy discussions into real-world experience. And they need to, and they want to hear our voices. So even a small chapter like mine at Kansas ACEP can have a large impact. And we bring credibility and we bring clinical perspective to the conversation. And that's how meaningful policy changes often start.
Finally, how important is it that we find a solution to this due process concern?
Without due process, physicians will be afraid to speak up because it might jeopardize their livelihood. You know, when you have a family and you have children living in this community and your job is threatened, if you speak up too loudly, then you might not speak up, and that puts our patients at risk. We can't have that. So we have to have this due process as quickly as possible. During COVID, when physicians were speaking up about a lack of PPE, some of them got terminated, and it's caused a lot of stress, and it was a moral injury because we couldn't provide the care that we wanted to provide. We couldn't provide the care that our patients deserved, and it really made our job very difficult. Despite how many people called us healthcare heroes at the time, it was just a very challenging time for us. And who knows when the next COVID epidemic will hit, or whatever epidemic comes up, whatever challenges come up, we need to be protected so we can adequately protect our patients as soon as possible. So I encourage all emergency physicians to meet with your legislators. I mean, they're just regular people with a desire to help their constituents. And they want to make the right decision, but they need to hear from us in order to make that right decision. They need to know what's going on firsthand on the front lines. And without our input, they're just guessing blindly.
Every day from now until March 28th, we'll feature a different story about the work of ACEP and its chapters. We'll talk about advocacy wins and work still underway to make sure you can do your job. We kicked off the series on March 11th. You can listen to past conversations and read more about ACEP's fight for due process protections by clicking the links in the show notes. There's also a website, acep.org/results. You've been listening to the Built on Results podcast, a production of the American College of Emergency Physicians. We're back tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.